into this spontaneous sort of jam session, and he starts saying, "I've got to go home. I've got to go back to America. Got to get ready for the bomb. Osama bin Laden's getting ready to bomb. Osama bin Laden's getting ready to bomb. Yeah." And then straight after that, he says, 2001, hit me. Now, bearing in mind, this was 1998, so it was just less than 3 years before the events of 9/11 in 2001. It goes, beyond the realms of coincidence that he could be making a statement like that if he didn't have some kind of foreknowledge of what was planned for 9/11 just less than 3 years later. So that's a very interesting Prince moment.
That's extraordinary. I didn't know. I'm going to listen to that now, definitely.
Yeah, you can find that on YouTube. It's widely available. Yeah. And then there's the chemtrails interview. I mean, celebrities are not supposed to mention things like chemtrails. You're not supposed to bring these things up. So that would have got him a lot of attention from, his overlords as well as from the public. And he's supposed to have made all sorts of other statements as well. It's difficult to know how many actually came from his mouth, because there have been a load of memes floating around Facebook in recent days of comments that Prince is supposed to have made, and they can't all be substantiated. But one which is claimed is that he made a comment about the genocidal Jews that control the music industry. He said, "This is the reason I'll never play Israel, because of the Jews that control the industry." Now, if he really did say that, you can understand why that would have got up the nose of certain parties.
Yeah. Okay, I suppose that's it. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't use that to demonise him, because, they always try to make out that people are anti-Semitic when they're criticising Israel.
Absolutely.
So they'll say, well, look, he did say Jews, not just Israel, something like that, which, of course, could be the wrong word to choose, because I think he would have understood the difference between Judaism and Zionism as much as we do.
He was a very smart fella, I'm sure he did. He was a very intelligent guy.
Yeah, it's just, and we've had this problem with Ken Livingstone lately in that way as too.
Yeah, Ken was sticking to the official narrative, of course, of the 6 million that we're told died in the Holocaust. So he's kind of he's with the textbooks there, but he was a bit controversial in some of the stuff that he said.
But you get the idea. You can see immediately, though, that as soon as I was looking at this, the news stories of Ken Livingstone being interviewed, they were terrible interviews and things like that. It was absolutely appalling. Now, another thing I want to bring up, because we're getting short on time now, but one of the things I want to bring up is you mentioned the transhumanist agenda, and this is very, very interesting. Music's role in normalising the transhumanist agenda. I mean, this immediately makes me think of some of the imagery in Lady Gaga's videos.
Absolutely, yeah. And
the things like you see her as a half. There's something in mechanical clothing. There's sort of like she's being genetically engineered in various states, things like that. So what's that chapter all about?
Well, transhumanism is the master plan of the elite controllers to merge humanity with technology and to have a human race which is kind of plugged into a big computer grid and absolutely reliant upon machinery and electronic ways of doing things in every aspect of their daily lives. And we've seen this plan being normalised through lots of the symbolism that's been creeping into music videos in recent years. The key player that's been used to further this symbology is will.i.am of the Black Eyed Peas. There have been so many videos where he's appeared as a kind of cyborg or android, and he's one of the key instigators of this bloody awful software system known as auto-tune, which is where they take a human voice and they make it sound like a robot. And this has been gradually phased into pop music and so-called hip-hop and R&B, and it's even getting into reggae dancehall music now, to the point that kids listening to this music are completely familiar with this process called auto-tune, and it's just become the normal way of doing things. And people are absolutely used to hearing human voices that sound more like computers. It's all part of a slow drip effect of normalising the idea of transhumanism. What they want in time And this has been made clear through many of the writings of the elites, so-called, over the years. They've actually put it into their own documents. They want a human population that is microchipped. That's a very key stage towards achieving what they want. In time, they want to get everyone to take an RFID chip under their skin, which links them via Wi-Fi signals to a worldwide computer grid. And it would therefore control every aspect of their lives, not least financial aspects. It ties in with their wish for a cashless society. And we've seen steps towards this taking place very slyly in recent times. I think Sweden is pretty much almost cashless now, from what I hear. All cash has been phased out, and everyone just uses, at the moment, credit cards with chips in. But in time, the idea will be that everyone uses their RFID chip to, for financial transactions. So that's a blueprint they want to roll out everywhere. They're doing it very, very slowly. They're normalising the idea of microchipping with pets. So we had the news the other week that all dogs in the UK now have to come with a chip so that they can be identified and we know where they are at any given time. They've started doing it with Alzheimer's patients in old folks' homes by saying, oh, well, if we chip your granny, you don't have to worry about her wandering off and getting lost because we'll know where she is at all times. So they're getting people to think, oh, yeah, actually, this is really good. This technology is very clever and there are lots of ways in which it can be beneficial so that they can sell this idea to the public. And that's what they want. They've got smart grids everywhere now. They're trying to put smart meters into people's homes and they're trying to have smart devices which communicate with each other wirelessly and send information back and forth. It's verging on surveillance and spy technology because, who knows what powers these devices have to report back information about what goes on in your home. And there's been lots of information to show that many of these devices are not safe. They're liable to burst into flames, particularly smart meters. Lots of examples of that.
I'm trying to persuade my landlord not to have one right now.
Yeah, it's a really bad idea. And then, of course, they're bathing you in this soup of electromagnetic pollution. It's really not a good idea to have all these wireless signals going through your brain and going through your body and interfering with your brainwave states and your body's energy systems. And you've got smart cities, which are due to be coming about now. Glasgow has been...
There's like 15 all across the world. Pippa King was talking about this on my show, on this a few months ago. She says, I think there's 15 smart cities around the world. One of them's Glasgow. Yep. Another's Stockholm in Sweden, which is why maybe they're going cashless.
Yep.
And
they're talking about smart motorways now. Yeah. So there's a section of the M6 near Birmingham which has been designated as the UK's first smart motorway, where everything communicates with everything else via signals, RFID signals and stuff, and there's just all this information going back and forth, and it's straight out of George Orwell's 1984. It's all to do with spying and surveillance, and it's also all to do with getting people absolutely reliant on technology, so that electronic ways of doing things become part of their regular daily life. So in the music business, we've seen this whole scenario that they want to unleash being normalised through music videos and stuff, through artists like will.i.am and Beyonce and Lady Gaga that you mentioned and so many others. Putting this kind of symbolism into the minds of these impressionable young people that lap up all this stuff and watch all these videos and just planting these suggestions into their subconscious. Into the subconscious mind.
Definitely. Auto-tuning was a novelty a few years ago. There's one song that's not that old, actually. It's the first time I think I heard auto-tuning. It was called, it was by Cher.
Cher song,
it was called Life After Love, I believe it was called.
Yeah.
And the DJs were joking, oh, look, she's got Stephen Hawking accompanying with her on stage.
Exactly.
But of course it was a novelty then, but there is some auto-tuning in some of the vocals there, which you can hear. And I think to myself, she's got such a lovely voice. Why don't she just sing normally like she used to? And
well, that was an experimental track. They were trying it out. That was 1996. That's the first time that the public had heard auto-tune. And it was developed by this company called Antares Technologies. Andy Hildebrand was the guy that founded the company in California, and he formerly worked in geology, mapping oil fields by using sound waves to map geological regions. So that was his background, and he kind of applied that to the music industry when he started up his company and saw how it could be applied to the human voice. And I'm not sure that he had any idea that his invention would be co-opted to the extent that it has been and will become the industry standard way of doing things. But either way, this has been leapt on as another way of getting an entire generation used to the idea of using electronic software and computers to kind of augment and improve areas of human life. So the idea is we're not a lot of use by ourselves unless we're plugged into some kind of computer that can do the job better than us. And what are we seeing now? Driverless trucks and driverless cars on the road. There was a headline just the other day. There's a certain number of thousand driverless trucks that are supposed to be on the roads of the UK very soon. They're trying them out now. Yeah, so people are going to be out of jobs. You know, we've all seen scanners in supermarkets where you take your own groceries up and, you know, do them yourself, and they're laying checkout operators off as a result of this. And we're going to keep seeing this in so many different areas of society. People's jobs being replaced by bloody computers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message is that in the end, the human body and the human mind will have to be merged with electronics. I mean, this is what this idiot Ray Kurzweil keeps waxing lyrical about, about how it's going to be so wonderful. I mean, he talks about the singularity thing. I mean, I did a whole entire program with Miles Johnston about this, but the singularity and how it'll be the dawning of a new age. But of course, we don't know that. We know that this kind of technology is science, is neutral. It's morally neutral. It can be used to do good or bad. And we know we have a malevolent elite who will use it to do bad if they can. And that their vision of Kurzweil's vision of the future, which would be we all become immortal robots or Aryan supermen, genetically engineered with electronics in our brains. More like it will end up like the Epsilons in 1980 in Brave New World by Aldous Huxley.
Well, I don't think that is the plan. I don't think that is the plan for everyone. What Kurzweil talks about, uploading your consciousness to a cloud and being able to, you know, download it into a new body and basically making yourself immortal and making yourself into a god. I think that is the wet dream of the elite controllers for themselves. They see themselves as gods, and they like to think that they can continue their consciousness on through different lifetimes and make themselves immortal in that way. But it's only the plan for themselves. I don't believe that's what they want for the rest of humanity. For the rest of us, for the useless eaters, the goyim, you know, the rest of us, the great unwashed, they've got a very different plan, which is, as I said, to have us all microchipped, all linked to a computer. And if you get somebody that falls foul of the system, like you or me, Ben, doing our radio shows, then our microchips will get turned off, or they'll send some kind of signal down the line and give us an induced heart attack or something like that. I feel that's the plan they've got for the rest of us, which is very different for the plan they've got for themselves.
Exactly. So do as you're told, otherwise it's format restart. And that's the end of you. And of course, like the in Brave New World, another book by George Orwell's school teacher, Aldous Huxley, interestingly, talked about these epsilons, who were these I think these thoughtless morons who did all the basics and lowliest jobs in society. They'd like live for 20 years and then they'd just die when they were no longer of any use. And so that is what we're looking at. This is why you need to resist this, and we need to keep our natural lives alive.
Absolutely. And if there are two overriding themes in the whole of my book, one would be the aspect of placing the truth right there in plain sight. As I mentioned earlier, we're given the opportunity to know what they've got planned. And that plays out in the transhumanist arena through all this stuff they're putting in videos and stuff, as I've detailed. They're letting us know where they want to take human society. And then in other chapters, I get into mind control symbolism, which hints at the presence of trauma-based mind control in certain artists. And then we get into all the dark occult stuff and all the Freemasonic imagery and things like that. So in all these cases, they're letting us know what they're doing, and they're letting us know their plans. This ties into predictive programming also, and I spend a lot of time in the chapter on predictive programming explaining why I believe it's all being done.
Mark? Hello? You're breaking up slightly.
Well, I'm still here.
Hello?
Where did I get to? Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, wait. Yeah, you just broke up slightly there. But
Am I back?
yeah, yes, you are. I can hear you now. So we just had a little of a break up.
Oh, right.
Actually, I'm just going to... Yeah, don't worry. I'm just going to save that, actually. Here we go.
Okay.
I think this is the one. It's there. It's all right. It's this one. Yeah, this is the one. Hang on. Sorry about this, mate.
That's all right.
I think I just may have copied... I may have just duplicated one of the files. So that's copy and paste. I'll call that Mark... I'll sort it out in a minute, but I'll call it Mark 3B. Now, this is the one. Hang on.
Just in case.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you got your own copy, yeah.
Well, I've got the whole thing here, yeah, if needs be.
Good. I'll call that Mark... Rename. I'll call it Mark 3B. There we are. So it's there. It's all right. I've got it. I'll sort that out. Which ones? I know which one's one of them's the wrong file, but I'll get rid of it later.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So right, here we go. So ready to start again?
Do you want me to just finish that point then?
Yeah, sure. Oh, Mark, you're back now. So what were you saying?
Yeah, two overriding themes in the book, really. One is the aspect of placing the truth right there in plain sight, as I mentioned earlier. And we see this time and time again. They give us the opportunity to know what they're doing. And they feel that when they've communicated that adequately to us, if we choose to take no action, that is us basically saying that we're okay with it. They feel they've done no harm. They feel that they've got our consent because we've not said, hang on a minute, you can't do that. So that's an overriding theme, and I go into it a lot in the chapter on predictive programming, and I break down why I believe that dynamic is at play. Then the other overriding theme that you will see throughout the book, and particularly in the last two chapters where I sum up, is the fact that all this stuff that's going on in the music industry, all these controlled artists, the presence of mind control, all the dark occult symbolism, all the stuff that's going into the subconscious mind and is affecting people's thoughts and perceptions and behaviours. And then the wider picture of what's going on in the world, all the paedophilia, all the child abuse, all the wars, all the suffering, all the madness, the chaos, the destruction, the injustice, only continues because we collectively allow it to continue. This is a key point which is communicated by so many researchers, and they're all saying the same thing. They're coming from different walks of life, and they deal with they put a different slant on the information, but ultimately the message is always the same, that we are allowing all this to continue by not pooling our consciousness collectively and taking ourselves to a place where we manifest a better reality for ourselves. We have that power. So many people have told us this through the ages. So many scholars, so many sages and gurus and researchers have told us that we have the power to shape and influence the type of physical conditions that we experience through our consciousness. That is why the dark occultists are able to keep a grip on the rest of humanity so effectively, and why they've been able to do it for so long, because they understand how this dynamic works, and they put it to play in their actions, and they bring their thoughts, emotions and actions together in unity, and they get the job done. We, the rest of us that are being enslaved and being controlled and manipulated and treated as energetic food for these parasites, can change our situation any time we want. It could happen tomorrow. By tomorrow lunchtime, we could have an entirely different world if enough people would come to this understanding and come together and raise their consciousness and focus their will and their intent on a better future and a better experience for all of us, and particularly the next generation, those of us that have kids, the type of world that they're going to have to inherit. It's a message that people would have heard many times before, and the reason they've heard it so often is because it's the truth. And really, everything changes the minute enough of us come to this understanding.
Exactly. And I think, obviously, this is your goal, this is your mission, it's your objective with this book and all the other things you do. And I think this is what you've just said is basically sums up my own attitude to why I do this radio show, is to try and create that situation. is what I want to do.
And we're winning people over, bit by bit, each one teach one. There'll be people that come to an understanding of this information, as I did. It was the works of David Icke that really woke me up and set me off on this path. And I've had so many people that have come to me since and said, thank you for your work. You've opened my eyes to so many things. I'm now studying this. I've spoken to my partner about this. And, so it continues that way. And then if each one of those people that's come to these new understandings talks to somebody else, a guy at work or their brother or a friend or something, and imparts that information and gets them on the path, and then they in turn do the same. That's how this whole process is going to grow exponentially. Each of us that comes to an understanding of truth takes on that obligation to pass it on to as many other people as we can. And that's the process that is now in place. The momentum is there. We've just got to keep it going, and it's got to happen at a faster rate than it currently is. But I see that process taking place, and I think it's going to reach a point where it can't be stopped.
Right, I agree. I feel very optimistic. Now, the book, listeners, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to read Mark Devlin's book, you can. It's Musical Truth. And is it available on Amazon? Because there'll be links in the show notes to these, ladies and gentlemen. But can they get it on Amazon?
Yeah, it is, mate. There's the regular paperback version. There's a special edition hardback version, and there's a Kindle version. They're all available on Amazon. If you just search for Mark Devlin Musical Truth, you can get it on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble as well. If anyone wants to purchase a copy from me direct, I'm happy to sign a copy. So if anyone wants to reach out to me by email on mark@markdevlin.co.uk, and they can pay by PayPal, then I can send one out direct. So it'd be the same price, but you're obviously helping me out a bit more by getting it directly from the author. There's some information about the book at musicaltruthbook.com, and I'm currently doing a bunch of talks around the country to help promote the book. Sadly, nowhere near Oxford, because there just don't seem to be those type of events. So they're in other areas, but not in these parts, unfortunately.
That's a shame, because we both live in Oxfordshire. We live quite close to each other. Yeah. But you never know. We could get through there. But do you still have the other website? Is it djmarkdevlin.blogspot.com?
Well, the main website is markdevlin.co.uk.
Markdevlin.co.uk, okay.
Yeah. So there's links to everything I do up there, all my podcasts, links through to the book and everything from there.
Right, all these links will be in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen, so check those out. Please do get a copy of Mark's book. If you think it looks expensive, well, do remember it is a huge book. It's a big book, and books cost a lot of money to produce, so you'll find it's worth it. You get what you pay for when it comes to books.
Thank you.
So Mark Devlin, thank you very much for being a guest on HPANWO show on HPANWO Radio. It's been fascinating talking to you again, and good luck.
Yep, thanks, Ben. It's been great kicking it to you. We've had a great conversation tonight, so thank you for getting me back.
Okay.